Three, two, one. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome to another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys growing on you live. Today, I'm going to have my man Austin from Carves Design on. I am super, super excited. I cannot wait to have him on and get chatting. We're going to have some fun here with this. Let me get my man added in here. And we'll get this on kicking. Haha! Austin! Does that
We
work?
good?
I think so, man. I think
Okay.
so.
All right.
The connecting kind of going back and forth, was it cutting out on you?
A little bit. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Let
Ye-
me
Yeah, I
hear
can
you.
hear you fine. It is little. If you're having trouble with the connection every once in a while, if you turn the Wi-Fi off, sometimes that bogs it down a little bit. I don't know why.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I did.
Oh,
Seems to be
okay.
working now.
Yeah. All good, man. Awesome. Thank you so
Great.
much for being on today, man. I appreciate it. It's gonna be sweet.
It is. No, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm actually an hour behind you. Um,
Oh, okay.
so I appreciate the heads up because I'm like, oh shoot, it's right now. So
Yeah, a lot of times I try to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up just because I'm like, okay, this is going to be a little bit, and sometimes people don't mention, the time change, and so yeah,
right.
I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah, no, it worked. It worked out. I appreciate it. Looking
Sweet. All
forward
right,
to it.
man. So, growing on you live here, basically, we have a couple of icebreaker questions initially. Then the majority of the interview is all about you and your craft, your prints, your artwork, all your great stuff. And then I have one finale question that is just for you, my dude. And if you're ready, we're going to dig right into it.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Awesome. So first off, let me ask you, if we were making a horror movie, right, and it was going to be something set in the 90s, and I asked you, to do a little bit of the scoring for it, and I said I needed you to come up with three either bands or songs, 90s bands or songs that had to be in this movie, what would you choose?
90s bands or songs that had to be in the movie. Okay. The Backstreet Boys. I hate to say it. It'd have to be. I can't think of the name of the band. Do you know? And I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Okay.
Hush.
Oh,
That I can't.
yeah.
That's I know what you did last summer is like my
Quintessential.
favorite 90s movies. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. All right, sweet.
Uh, oh, that's a tough one. One
No, one
more.
more. You're doing great. Yeah.
Let me think. 90s. Uh, oh, I don't know. Uh, I don't want to say Britney Spears, but
I
let's
mean,
just
it's
say
very
Britney
showing of
because
times.
let's just say Britney because I can't think of any.
All right, well, we'll go with that, my dude. We'll go with that. And
With
it's funny
her.
too because so you introduced me to a movie that was very, very 90s that I actually watched for the first time last night, being
Oh,
Jawbreaker.
Jawbreaker. Did you like it?
Yes, dude. Oh
It's
my God, it was awesome. It was awesome. And
it's
I didn't
such a good
really,
one.
I didn't know what it was about, other than something to do with a jawbreaker and somebody dies or whatever. And that initial scene when they popped the trunk, I was like, "Holy!" I'm watching with my wife, and I'm like, "Holy shit, that is rough. Like
It
that looks
is.
bad." So
It's
that was
it's a
crazy.
dark movie. When I
It
first
is.
watched that, I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and
Damn.
my cousin said, "Hey, there's this movie called Jawbreaker. Do you want to watch?" I'm like, sure. I was over at her house, and we put it in. And like, what is this? We were like 9, 10, watching like the most campy movie you could, but no, it's a good one. It's dark.
Dude,
It's messed
it's
up.
great. It is honestly such a good movie, and it's one of those ones where like I completely missed out. Like I never even heard of it. I had no idea, and then I saw your poster, and I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And
Yeah.
it's sick. It was a really
Yeah.
cool take on it too, because like you say, I mean, it's a pretty dark movie.
It is. It was originally conceived as a straight up horror film. So with the poster, I just
Oh,
kind of
okay.
wanted to do like what if those comedic elements were left out, and how it would have turned out. But
Yeah.
I'm happy. The comedy in it's so great.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and it works too. I mean, it definitely does. It really feels like it's, it kind of fits in with like the She's All That's and like those movies, but it's
It
just a little bit darker than those ones.
it does. It does. The line, it's not like we kill people on purpose. It's just it's so good.
Right, right.
So
It's
good.
fucked up.
Yeah.
And like it was funny too because so my wife and I were talking about that movie, and it was like I feel like of all decades, like the 90s was so self-aware, like it
Right.
used songs and bands that were from the 90s. Like if you look at movies nowadays, so much of the stuff is inspired by like 80s and and sometimes 90s and whatnot, but it's not really using music of the times, so to speak. And then you look at 70s movies and 80s, and those are kind of they pick up some elements of the 50s, and the 90s
Hmm.
always had that feeling too. And man, it was
It,
such a perfect movie. I
it
gotta,
it was.
is there like a physical copy of that one?
There is. Yeah, it's out on Blu-ray.
Oh, okay. I need to snag that because that movie's
Yeah,
sweet, sweet
it
as hell.
is. I'm glad
So
you liked it.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for the inspiration on that one. So
Yeah, for
let
sure.
let me dig into my next question. I wanted to ask you as far as with Thanksgiving coming up. I
Hmm.
wanted to ask if you could have any horror actor or actress or director sitting at your table for Thanksgiving this year. Who would you have?
John Carpenter.
Ooh,
I think John
okay.
Carpenter. Yeah, I met him a few years ago at a horror con. Took a lot of smoking breaks. So the line went very, very slowly. But
Slow.
yeah, there was something about him that, it was very rushed. I pulled out my Halloween poster and he said, "Where do you want me to sign it?" I just pointed. That was it. But I would love, Halloween's my favorite movie. So just getting to pick his brain, over that. Someone deceased, Wes Craven. When Wes Craven died, passed away, I
Mhm.
almost physically, cried because I'm like, oh no, this
Right.
man's a legend.
Hmm.
So I'll say John, and if possible, Wes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
He,
sure. Both legendary for sure. Yeah, and I
yeah,
mean,
they
like you
are.
mentioned with when Wes passed, I mean that was a huge thing.
It was a
It's
huge blow.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
it's weird too because like it's a good point, where it's like when you get further into being a fan with horror and different things, it's somebody that you never even met, but like
you
Sid
feel that
Haig.
connection. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You're like, man, I've grown up with these people, and I've kind of, like come so many years, working, in a
for
sense,
sure.
picking my brain with this shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So now let me ask you as far as your art and your design. Where did
Mhm.
this all start for you, and where'd your interest become?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was young, my grandparents would always, put like a marker in my hand, so I would always be drawing or doing something, building little houses out of construction paper, which is kind of weird if you think about it, but that's what I like to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I ended up going to college in 2012 and got a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design,
Damn.
and then a Master's of Fine Arts in Graphic Design. I graduated this year. There's no
Wow.
graduation or anything like that,
Oh
so
man,
you
what a
know the
bummer.
no, I know. I went to school for 7 years for this, and the final semester that I was in, uh, the world decided to fall apart, but it all worked out.
Damn.
Yeah, so I always knew from an early age I always liked to draw and illustrate. I Do you remember Paint, the program Paint? I
Oh
think it
yeah.
was called like Paint 2.0. When I was like 17, 18, I downloaded just a free copy of it. I guess Paint is free, so I mean, I don't really know. I found like a, sketchy downloadable link, installed the software on my computer,
Probably gave you
and
viruses and shit.
yeah, probably. Actually, I think it did. No, and I just started to, put pieces together, play with it. I wasn't making really anything. It was just finding a picture on Google and throwing it down and saying, okay, if I use this layer, I can create this effect, or I can draw, a landscape and scan that in and bring that in, and what can I do with it? I mean, the stuff was awful, looking back at it. And then I came to college, I came to university, and met with a graphic design teacher, and she let me take some classes out of order. So, I felt like education-wise, I was always trying to catch up because, I took like a 300 level class before a 100 level class, and I've always felt like I was fighting to keep my head above the water a little bit throughout school. But no, it all, I don't know. It's always just been, I feel like I'm really bad at answering this question because it's always just been like something that I felt like I had to do. You
Yeah.
know, like
Okay.
I'll be sitting, like watching TV or watching a movie. I'm like, oh, I have this idea in my head. I have to, grab like a sketchbook and just sketch something out just to get it on paper so I don't lose it.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I couldn't imagine not doing it. Sometimes this is true. Sometimes I have nightmares where I go blind or like lose my hands. I'm like, oh man, what would I do? You know,
Oh my
like,
God.
that sounds really messed up. I'm like, what would I do? What would be, I feel like it gives me a purpose,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure.
Dude, you should like write a movie about something like that. I mean, like,
No, I
something
know.
that's your livelihood is, being able to see or using your hands to draw, then you
It,
lose that, and
it
that
is.
that'd be pretty rough.
It is. There is a, I mean, it all sounds, the only downside I have is a few years ago, I took a job, and I won't say the name. I took a job at a design agency, an ad agency. I paused school for a little bit, and I'm like, I'm gonna take this job. It's gonna be great, and it was awful. It was
Uh,
the worst job I've ever had in my life.
oh man.
Milton Glaser, who did the "I Love New York" logo,
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
had
Okay.
always said, "You can only work for people that you like." And I found that to be true. So I've had moments where I'm like, is this what I want to do? You know,
Hmm.
but I'm sure that's with everything. I've worked with a lot of difficult clients, so I'm kind of working with one right now. So I don't want to say any names, but occasionally I'll have like a do I want to do this anymore? And I have like a week of well, what do I do? But then
Yeah.
I snap out of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with the passion and the appreciation for what it is. I feel like I hear that a lot too about with people that end up going to college for something. Like you absolutely love music and you go into college to do music theater and you're just like, ugh, I hate music now. I don't want anything
Yeah,
to do with it. So.
yeah. I had a lot of moments like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
The,
and bravo as far as, I mean, like pushing through and, getting, graduating with everything. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't end up doing that. So, I mean, that's a,
yeah.
that's a,
Thank you.
huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about some of your earlier pieces, and different, different
For
designs
sure.
that you made, that you feel like kind of pushed you in the realm of feeling like you got something. You can, open up a shop, different things like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't. They always say don't bite the hand that feeds you, and this is actually something I've never spoken about. So I'll just go ahead and talk about it now. I feel like now's the time. It's been about 8 years.
Okay.
So I went to the university in SIUE in 2012. About 2 months after being there, I did the Halloween re-release poster for Trancas
Oh, okay.
International Film. So that was the first big project that I ever had. And the way that came about, it's a really long story, and I could talk about it for an hour, so I'll just speed through this to get to answering your question.
Sure.
Um, so they had on the Halloween Facebook page, submit some fan art that you had made, and I think it was like win a copy of Halloween 4 and 5, I think is what it was.
Oh, okay.
And I had made Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 poster hanging behind me, actually. I had made just some fan art for that. A
You
few
made that
years.
poster?
No, I didn't make this. Sorry, I
Oh,
just made
oh,
some fan
okay.
art for it.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry.
Got it. I was like, oh
And
shit.
no, yeah,
That
I
was sweet though.
submitted it to there was an email, and about 20 minutes later, I got an email from Trancas that said, "Hey, can we call you?" Like, oh no, like they're gonna sue me. What's going on? So I called them, and they said, "Hey, we're re-releasing Halloween. Do you want to do the artwork for it?" So I thought it was gonna be this great experience, and I had no idea what I was walking into. So basically, it was me trying to navigate phone calls with like 20 people in their office at their table trying to put this together. And, that was the first time I thought, well, maybe I have something, maybe this could lead to something. Um, and ultimately what happened, I thought the design was really strong, but ultimately what happened in those final days before the deadline, I mean, the movie was coming out in a few weeks, so they needed to get the posters off to print.
Hmm.
I think it was like 2,500 theaters. So um, the final days, I would get a phone call and would say, hey, we like what you did with the Halloween. Originally, it was staggered, HALLOWEEN. So it kind of had like a 50s and 60s influence. I mean, it was something completely different
Yeah.
um, at that time than what had been done for Halloween in the past. And in the final days, I would get, hey, can you ditch your title treatment and just use our logo? Or can you remove
Uh,
the age defect? We're not certain about that. I'm sorry, I feel like the lighting's like really distracting. Sorry, I'll turn a little bit.
that's fine.
So it was a rewarding experience, but it was also a heartbreaking experience. But when that went
Yeah.
up, a lot of people had contacted me and emailed me about, hey, do you have prints available just for anything? And by that point, I didn't. So that was the
Hmm.
point. I thought, well, maybe, maybe I could sell, my own stuff, or maybe I could, actually make this work. Um, in 2013, Malik contacted me, Malik Akkad, and I did the re-release for Halloween 1, 4, and 5, the artwork for that. Um,
Shit.
and it was a similar experience. I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me, but you hear stories, I think when Todd Farmer left Halloween 3D, there was kind of like all this behind the scenes drama, and there was so much behind the scenes drama involving working on Halloween. It was insane. And I feel bad saying that, but I can't even get into some of it. But I'm also really grateful. I don't want to
Yeah.
say, oh, it was terrible, because in a sense it was terrible. But in the same aspect, I met a lot of great people, through that project. Um, but it, it was rough. But that was the project I thought, hey, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could sell my own prints. So
Yeah.
in that regard, I'm very thankful for it. But
Well,
I've never quite done anything like that before. There were also some legal issues involved with that. I don't know if I'm even allowed to talk about this, but my contract said this was another reason I wanted to open my own site, because the contract that I signed when I did the Halloween artwork did not mention reproductions. A week after Halloween was re-released nationwide, the posters went up on the website at like $21 a piece, and they're still up. About 8 years later, I've never been paid a penny. um,
damn.
so again, like what can you do? But that was the moment where I'm like, I need to control more of this process. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
open my own site. I'm gonna, I'm just gonna work for myself.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that is sometimes where you have something that's a passion, that's a love, and you bring it into like a profession, in a sense, and it starts getting bigger and bigger, and you have something kind of like a conglomerate or a corporation. You're just like, what am I doing?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
That's,
I'm like,
I mean, me
what?
being in a band too, like that's kind of like that with, like you hear people about on record labels, you go and you bust your ass to get on a record label, and then you get on it and it's just like, well, why didn't I just release this myself? This is
Yeah,
ridiculous. Just
right.
picking you to the bone for nothing, just for
That's
having a label to it.
that's exactly how I felt. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm grateful. I don't
Yeah.
regret it.
Right.
You know,
You'll learn
I,
and move on
I
and try to do,
right.
better the next time. Yep, for
It
sure.
was a learning experience.
Yeah.
It led to some great connections. There
Yeah.
are some people on that project that I still talk to today. Or when I have something come out, like they will text me. And so live and learn,
Yeah,
learning
there's
experience.
goods and bads with everything for sure. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, tell us about where your interest in horror began, and possibly even like the first horror movie you ever saw.
The first horror movie I ever saw, the first one I remember was Scream.
Oh, okay.
I think I was 6, and
Holy
I
shit!
and I fell asleep.
Oh,
I
damn.
remember my older cousin, he was probably 17, 18 at the time. He was staying with, I think my parents. I don't know exactly what. I mean, I was young. I don't remember. I just remember he was at our house,
Uh,
and my mom, and I think like my I don't remember who was even there, but I remember watching Scream and seeing that opening sequence, and then I fell asleep. And so I do remember that. When I was born in 1990, so video stores were all over the place. There was a
yeah.
video store down the street from my grandparents' house, and they would walk me down, and I would rent. I remember renting almost every week in Halloween 4 and 5. So I will
Oh,
defend
okay.
Halloween 5 to this day. um, I know it has a lot of problems, but it's I grew up with it, so it has like a lot of sentimental value to
Nostalgia.
me. Yeah, the
Yeah, 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 for
nostalgia's
sure.
high. So yeah, I mean, I was 6, 7, 8. I remember watching I Know What You Did Last Summer for the first time. My cousin spilt her Pepsi all over my beanbag chair. I had to throw it away. So I don't know. I just remember like weird little things like that. But I always have, it's always just been. I think that my parents watched a lot of horror movies, so it
Yeah.
was just something that was kind of always on in the background. And I would watch little bits and pieces, and um, I don't know. That's just, kind of what I grew up on. It's,
Yeah, for sure. That's
it
sweet.
wasn't, yeah, it probably wasn't until I was 17, 18, maybe 16 that I really started following the community, seeing, checking out the new releases and,
Hmm.
trying to stay up to date on everything.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, I mean, with over the years, the movies that you've watched, what are like three scenes that you would say are forever ingrained in your brain? Just things that were disgusting or just absolutely shocked you, or anything of the like.
So I would say Psycho,
Oh
because
yeah.
unfortunately, I saw the remake before I saw the original.
Oh no.
So, and the remake has its merits,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna trash it, but,
Yeah. Actually, Vince Vaughn is
I,
a pretty good serious
he,
actor.
he's
He,
not bad in that.
yeah,
Yeah.
he does some pretty good shit.
Yeah, there's something
That
about that
movie is
movie.
rough, but
It's different. It has like a certain weirdness to it that at
yeah.
times works, but then you're like, well, this is Psycho. But I watched the 19, I think 98 remake, and then it was a few years later that I saw the original. I'm like, oh wow, this is how it's supposed to be. You know? So
Right, right.
when I saw that shower scene for the first time, like in the actual movie, what proceeds and follows, I'm like, wow, this is great. So I would say that. Um,
Okay.
I might get a little bit of hate for this one, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I
Oh,
don't,
dude, that movie is awesome. I love that movie.
I think it's a great movie. And
Yeah.
at that point, I was 13 or so when that came out, and I had never seen anything like that. I mean, this was before Saw, before Saw 2 and all the crazy sequels. So there was really nothing mainstream that had that level of intensity and grittiness. And I
Hmm.
think they bleach bypassed the print. So just like that look, not documentary feel, but it had like that rawness to it and that
Yeah.
edge.
Yeah, for
So I
sure,
had
for
never
sure.
seen anything like that. And that movie terrified me. And I see people now, maybe a slightly younger generation say, no, that's like a hot topic version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But in many ways, I think it's superior to the original one.
Oh,
I hate
really?
saying that.
Wow. Okay.
I would say that
Is there a particular scene in that movie that really stuck with you?
the scene where Jessica Biel, Aaron, is at the door, the metal door, and Leatherface first comes through it, and she
Oh
takes off
yeah.
running. There's the guy in the wheelchair. I'm like, oh my God, like this movie's intense. I think it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I still, even to this day when I watch it, like it's just, it's so gritty and it just
Hmm.
feels, and I know the original movie's gritty, but there's something about that one that got me. And,
Yeah, I
I
agree.
see people in comment, like message boards and forums saying, oh, it's an MTV movie. It's terrible. I'm like, did I see something different that they
Yeah,
didn't?
I disagree.
So
I loved it as well. Yeah, I saw it in theaters and I absolutely loved
yeah,
that movie. I thought it was
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. The third one would be, you know, probably the first Strangers movie.
Ooh,
Not
yes.
not because I think it had been delayed so many times, and I went with a group of my friends to see it. And what I didn't, I thought it was a good movie. I think my expectations were so high that I thought, oh, I'm going to be absolutely terrified, and this is going to be the scariest movie I've ever seen. I
Hmm.
mean, I thought it was a good movie, but what I remember about that makes it so great for me, this sounds so messed up, is the person sitting next to me, she was with her boyfriend. And midway through the movie, she started crying. And I was like pulled up in the seat. And I thought that was, it sounds so mean, but I thought that was so funny seeing how, seeing how the people reacted to it. And, my friends, we all thought it was a good movie, but we just got a kick out of the
Yeah,
people around us
right.
because you could tell the demographic in the theater were people that had never watched a horror movie in their life.
Right.
So,
Right.
so any
Damn, yeah, that's a
anytime
good
I
one.
yeah, anytime I watch that.
That,
I
go ahead.
no, I was also gonna say maybe Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I loved that movie. I did not like his remake. After the 2007 movie, I was just so pissed off. I was so, now I like it a little bit more, but I was so mad at the time. So
Hmm.
when Halloween 2 came out, that was when I thought he did his own thing.
Yeah.
Again, I have the poster on the wall, behind me. So
Yeah,
I
for
think it's
sure,
a
for
really
sure.
weird movie, and that was one. I didn't think it was really scary. It didn't really mess me up in that way, but that was one. I think I saw it like 3 or 4 times its opening weekend. So that was
Oh
another
shit.
another good, yeah, another good
Hell
one.
yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, it's speaking of the poster art behind you, if we can dig in a little bit, because for the longest time, the only draw that you had to a movie was the cover art, was a poster, was something like that. We
Hmm.
didn't have trailers just right at hand. What are
For
some
sure.
what are some posters or video cover art that always stood out to you?
I would say Halloween. I know that's an easy one to say, but those were the movies that I would always rent, when I was 6 or 7 years old. So,
Yeah,
that
it's
his
iconic for
white,
a reason.
it is. Let's say Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the knife
Oh
stuck in
yeah.
the hockey mask. I remember that one. Um, they're not necessarily good movies, but I remember renting the Children of the Corn movies because of the cover art. Like
Oh okay.
the
Yeah, yeah,
kids with
yeah.
the scythes and the scary children emerging from the cornfield. Um,
Right.
I think my favorite poster though is Jaws. I don't think that you can beat.
Oh man.
I don't think that you can beat. I don't think the artwork for that movie will ever be challenged. I think that's the greatest poster that's ever been created. I like that
Yeah.
they took the cover for the novel, the book that was much more simplistic and really just pushed it to 10. I think that that's,
Right.
it's just such an iconic image. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of the Italian horror movies, like Inferno has a really great cover.
Yes.
I think that the only thing, that was maybe a bad trend was, in the 90s we had the floating heads, that everyone talks about now. And
Oh,
at
terrible.
times, I know
Terrible.
that's,
Like a
that's,
Miramax thing.
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
The
So
worst.
I would say that may have been like the low point.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see that we moved away from that.
I think everybody else is that's a fan of film in general, maybe even not outside of horror.
For sure.
So when you're creating art, for like a prominent title, you have different things on your shop for Halloween, Trick or Treat, and mentioned in Italian Suspiria.
hmm
Tell us about your approach to creating something familiar but fresh.
So normally what I do is I pull out like a piece of paper or sketchbook and I'll make a list of items that I can remember being in the movie. Like Halloween, the crocheting needles that Lori had, or I'll just put a list together of some objects or some locations, and then I'll watch the movie, even though I've seen it just as a refresher. And I just do
Hmm.
some quick thumbnail sketches, maybe 10 or 20, trying to put together a composition, just trying to block out the space. I do Google searches, like Suspiria fan art, not to get ideas, but just to try to stay clear of what's been done before. Because I think a lot of
Oh,
times,
right.
I'll come up with an idea. I'm like, oh, wow, this is a great idea. And then I'm close to finishing it. And then I see something almost exactly like it online. I'm like, oh, no, how can I change
Oh
this and make it
God.
work? So,
Yeah.
it's mainly, I would say, the development process for me is usually a few weeks. I will, put the list together, do some thumbnail sketches, let the idea sit, you know, modify it as I go along, pull some images and just try to do a quick compositional layout before I start the actual illustration. Um, I don't know. Sometimes things are more effective than others. When I was doing the Suspiria poster, and that was just something that I was doing for fun. I never had any intentions of selling it. I didn't think that would actually go anywhere.
Hmm.
But the sketch that I did, the initial sketch ended up changing quite drastically. There was a poster I think that Mondo put out. I can't remember who put it out, but it had the foyer, the entryway of the academy on it. Initially, I was
Oh
going to have
yeah.
more of that. It had like more of this little. I'm like, well, this is a little too close to what they did. So I just ended up, you kind of tweaking it as you go along.
Yeah.
That
Right.
becomes more
Okay.
difficult when, like working with Arrow or, Severin, it becomes, you can't really tweak as you go along. But, when it's something, I think that's why I started Creepy Carves because, um, I'm a little bit, everyone likes having control, a little bit of a control freak. So, sometimes when I'm working on something and I'll have like 20, 30, 40 hours in something and at the last minute it's like, hey, this needs to go, you need to remove this, you need to do this. It becomes very personal, even though I know it shouldn't.
Right.
So
You can't help
like
for it to not be.
you can't. No, I try to separate myself from it, but it's impossible. So I did creepy cars because I'm like, for better or for worse, this is 100% my vision. If people don't respond to it, if people don't buy it, that's fine. It's
That's
okay.
okay.
I get it. There's no one else to blame but me. So that's. I think that's why I did it because the commission work is great, and the commit it's meeting the new people that I've gotten to work with is a great experience, but I needed to also have an outlet that was 100% what I wanted it to be. And I think it's important to have a balance.
Yeah. Right. Right. Okay. And you mentioning working with Severin, you've worked with CineMuseum, doing absolutely awesome stuff. But my favorite would have to be the release
Oh, you
for
have it.
Severin's.
Oh,
Dude,
thanks.
oh
Yeah.
my God. I absolutely love this thing. I did a fundraiser for when Australia had like the wildfires
The
going and everything like
wildfires.
that. And
Right.
they actually Severin sent me a copy of this as one of the
Oh, that's
prizes. 'Cause
awesome.
yeah,
That's
so
great.
it was cool because I got a hold of them. They're like, "Well, what do you have in mind? Is there a certain movie?" And I'm like, "Man, if you could include like Wax Mask with that fucking slip cover, that'd be sick." Boom, there it showed up. But
That's
so
great.
if you can tell me about just working with them and your initial idea for working on this bad boy, I
hmm
would love to hear it. This is probably my favorite release that Severin has done so far. I love it.
Wow, thank you. That's great to hear. Um, so that came about, in a really odd way. I did the Suspiria design. I posted that on Instagram. I think later that night or a few days later, I got a direct message from Dylan Anthony Young, who runs Video Nasties
Hmm.
t-shirt company. And he said, hey, I really like the Suspiria artwork. Would you like to do a couple t-shirts for me? And one of those was for the movie Robo War.
Oh yeah.
I've actually never seen the movie.
No,
I
I
hate to
haven't.
say
I see it
this.
on Severin though.
Yeah. So, he said, hey, they know exactly what they want. Can you do it in a couple of days? I'm like, well, sure. I'm like, I don't really know what this is.
It's
So,
a great deadline.
yeah, I sent it, to Dylan, and he said, hey, let me send it to Severin. I'm like, oh, I had no idea this was for Severin. I've always, wanted, I love their company. I've always wanted to work with them to do like a slipcover or case for them. And Dylan's like, oh, really? Well, I'll let him know. So I'm like, oh, you great. Don't think anything of it. Like 2 days later, my phone rings. And it's, I can't remember, David, I think his name, David, terrible with names at Severin. And he said, hey, we love the Robo War shirt. Do you want to do a couple of slipcases for us? So that's
Oh
that's how
damn.
that's how that came about. It was very quick. The Robo War t-shirt actually, up until that point, I don't know about now, was their highest selling t-shirt.
Oh shit.
So record numbers. So that got me the wax mask deal, and that was a bundle. I mean, it was take both or leave it
Yeah.
with Gwendolyn, the movie Gwendolyn. So I did the cover for that too for them. With Wax Mask, I believe I was the second artist that came on. Um, I'm
Oh
not
okay.
sure who. I have no idea what happened. I had about a week to do that. Um, so I was actually a replacement for someone who left. I don't know what happened there, but on the phone, he was very adamant, exactly what they wanted. So they sent me a copy of the movie. I watched it. I think it's a great movie. I
Yeah.
was, I don't want to say I was shocked, but I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, this is
Right.
actually really good.
Right.
Um, so, I put that together in about a week for them. The director came back a few weeks later with some changes with just like the needle, syringe, nothing too major. Severin, they pretty much stayed out of it. They're like, just send it to us when you're done. So they were really great, easy to work with. I'd love to, do a collaboration with them again soon. I would say they've actually, client-wise, have been the best, the most cool, laid back,
Damn.
relaxed. It didn't, a lot of times I'll have people, breathing down my neck. Um, no, you need to be using, I've actually had people, you need to be using this brush. You need to be using this tool in Photoshop to do this. Or I'm like, what? Like, okay,
God damn.
So they were very relaxed, very, very, very cool about it. Gwendolyn was a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
That was came about, again, it was take Wax Mask, take Gwendolyn, or leave both. Gwendolyn, I believe there were two artists who left the project. I know one by name, can't say who, but I know it's I really want to say, but I can't. It's someone that you're probably very familiar with. I don't know what happened, but I think the project was, I don't want to say turmoil, but there had been some behind the scenes issues. So again, I had about
Oh
a
okay.
week to do that. Gwendolyn had a little bit more unclear direction. With Wax Mask, they were very, this is what we want, make it happen. So that was very, came together easily. Gwendolyn was a little bit more of a pain in the neck. It was still a great experience, and I'm happy with how the final product came together in the end. That was for the slipcover for that movie. Um, I think what happened with that, the director of that movie had a very clear vision of what he wanted. Maybe
Oh
didn't let
okay.
Severin know. That wasn't relayed to me. So there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of wasted time trying. I mean, now the cover looks fairly simple, but there were, I think originally like three or four or five extra portraits on it. There's a lot more going on. They're like, no, we just want her. We just want her. We just want Gwendolyn on it. I'm like, okay. So I took everything else off and no, we need the wall. We need guards. I'm like, oh, okay. So, that project I think became, I think that's an example of Halloween. There are a few too many cooks in the kitchen. I think everyone kind of
Yeah,
had
for
a
sure.
vision of what they wanted it to be, but Wax Mask was, yeah, that if everything could be like that, just very pain-free, very, let the artist have control. It was a great experience.
Sweet.
I wish everything could be like that. And I really hope to work with them again. I worked with Arrow earlier this year, and they were great,
Hmm.
but Severin just had that you could tell that they trusted me, and
Right.
sometimes people hire me and they're like, well, we want to see sketches, we want to see your process, and they sent me a down payment and said have at it. So it
Oh shit.
great,
Okay.
it was, yeah,
You
great
know,
company.
the one thing I can say too, because you hit on a point with Wax Mask, was being surprised by it. I had never seen the movie, and this was definitely one of those moments where I saw the cover art and I'm like, I'm gonna pick this up. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about it. I didn't want to watch
Hmm.
the trailer, anything. But
Hmm.
in particular, you even mentioned like Jaws. I feel like there's certain movies where the movie can be great, and then if it goes and it has like a silly cover or like the artwork that kind of embodies it, I feel like sometimes
Hmm.
that kind of takes down a little bit of that experience with certain things. Like maybe for me, or even like albums, the music is amazing, and then the cover art's just some goofy picture of like different people, and you're like,
Right,
this could have been so much better, but like the
right.
packaging and everything, I feel like there's just certain movies that even the packaging can bring up the whole overall experience for it.
Hmm.
I don't know if
I
that's just
agree.
that's just me, but
No,
it's something I've
I
always kind
agree
of told my
completely.
friends before, where it's like, man, the movie's great, but God, it would be so much better if it had like just a better cover when the physical copy came out.
Hmm. I agree completely. There are times I will buy a bad movie because the cover art is great.
Right.
And I'll buy the movie even, I'll watch the trailer and I'm like, this is terrible. But I'll buy, I'll spend $25 on the movie because I think, the new cover art is great.
Hmm.
There are a few from Arrow that I purchased, just
Yeah.
to look at the cover art. But yeah, I would say I don't think they're really around anymore, but Dark Castle, I
Oh
always
yeah.
thought that, like Ghost Ship,
Hmm.
House on Haunted Hill, 13 Ghosts. I remember like the trailers and the, like the billboards and, the, even the cover art themselves, the posters were, really great. Just,
Right.
very, I mean, very Hollywood, but very, very polished, very iconic. And then the movies are like, well, you know,
Right.
they're okay, but that was maybe I think a good example of, the advertising selling the movie,
Hmm.
more
Hmm.
than the movie. I remember Ghost Ship, that being, I think Ghost Ship's okay, but, after that opening scene, I'm like, what? you know, this could have
What
been so
happened?
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
what happened? But the advertising really sold it. I
Yeah.
remember when that movie came out. Like the poster with the ship, and even the tagline "See Evil, CEA." I'm like, wow, this is so
Right.
great. But yeah, I agree completely. I think in my collection there are probably 100+ movies that are bad movies, but they have great. You know, they have great artwork. That Arrow Trapped Alive. Have you ever seen
Oh
that movie?
yeah. Yeah.
Artwork's great. I mean, the movie was okay, but the artwork
Yeah.
was great.
Hmm.
Doom Asylum. I hated Doom Asylum. I know a lot of people like it, but the artwork was so great that I spent like the $20 on it. But
Nice. Nice.
yeah,
I've never seen that one, but I know what you're talking about. I've seen a lot of it. Yeah.
yeah, it's different. It
So with
wasn't for
the
me.
yeah, right. With all the awesome companies that you have worked with, with the CineMuseum and Severin and Arrow, what are some things that are kind of on like a art or design bucket list for you at the moment?
Um, that's hard. Arrow was my big one. Arrow was the one company, I always said I want to do one thing with Arrow, and if it's a one and done, that's fine. So they were my, big ones. So when I got
Sick.
that email from them, that was great. I would say maybe, Fright Rags would be, it'd be great to do something with them at some
Hell
point.
yeah.
Fangoria, just because of the history behind, Fangoria, I think what's been around since like 1979, you know, just anything for Fangoria, I think would be great. So,
Hmm.
what I've found, what I've discovered, as I've started working a little bit more full time in this in the last year, is if you reach out to people, you'd be shocked at how many say yes.
It's crazy.
So it's there are a few that like I said, Fright Rags I'd really love to work with, and part of me is like, do I just send them an email?
Right, right.
It's worked in the past. With Arrow, there was I had some communication with them, and they said, hey, we'll keep your name on file, if something ever comes up, and I kind of had one of those. Uh, do I even respond to this? And I sent them my
Oh, okay.
contact information, my phone number, and they're like, we'll keep your name on file. If we have the right project for you, we'll give you a call. And it was maybe 3 or 4 months later, and they did. And I thought it was a joke at first, So I'm like, okay, okay, because so many times people, oh, we'll keep your name on file, and that
Right,
goes just
right.
right out the, into the trash
Yeah.
can. But so, they were great to work with, but yeah, Fright Rags, maybe Waxwork Records, I would love to do record
Oh, yeah.
packaging, something like that one day. Um, just something different, I'd love to do a magazine cover, never had that opportunity, but yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, those are all, I mean, really, really cool things, and for you mentioning being able to work with Arrow, and that was kind of something that you had that you wanted to knock down. I guess from my personal experience, I can totally agree saying that I've had, I don't know how many times where I've just sent somebody a message or an email about an interview, even, and my wife's sitting next to me and I damn near knock her over because I'm like, holy shit, they just got back to me. Like, what?
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's, I don't know who exactly had said it. It's a famous quote as far as you only get 100% of what you actually set out to try or set out to achieve. And
For
basically
sure.
if you don't try, it's not going to happen. And but I mean, it's just one of those things where we're in a time where technology can be crazy and Facebook can be full of bullshit, but you can utilize it for really good things. You can get a hold of people that I myself have fucking light years past I never thought I could. So
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and even
It's crazy.
like you and your artwork, I absolutely love the opportunity like this too. So I
Yeah, for
keep at
sure.
it, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
I
Yeah. Thank you.
love it, love it. All right, this is concluding our interview. I do have one finale question for you,
Okay.
but this is your opportunity if you want to let everybody know what you got going on currently. Maybe some new things popping up. Nothing too secretive. I don't want you getting in trouble
Yeah.
here, but
No, no, I
this is
know.
your time, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there's so many things I want to talk about that I can't. There's so many things.
But that's a good thing. You have work
Yeah,
coming. You have
there's
you have some
there's
things to announce.
yeah, there's something potentially Halloween related. Can't really talk about that.
Ooh, all right.
There's some great. There's a cologne actually, a fragrance for men coming out that I didn't make it, but I'm doing the design for it.
I was like, holy shit,
No,
you
no,
really
I'm
branched
I'm
out.
I'm I'm not that talented. So it's been a good collaboration. It's from a really big property. I think the news for that will be coming out a little before Christmas.
Sweet.
There are a few other projects I can't talk about. We're having a Black Friday sale on Creepy Carves, creepycarves.com. That will start early next week.
Okay.
So everything's going to be, massively discounted.
Okay.
I have a new Psycho release in December coming out. Uh,
Oh shit! Awesome.
there's also something in January. I can't, this is unfortunate because I can't really talk about any of it yet. So I feel like, there's stuff coming, but I can't. I
Yeah.
can't really say, but yeah.
Well, you know that's the good thing, and I'll tell you firsthand. I'm not somebody who's trying to sit here and pry shit out of people that have something. I mean, that's one thing.
Right.
It's actually a pet peeve of mine in interviews is when somebody's like, "Man, I have this really cool thing." They're like, "Okay, well, just give me just a little more." Like, fuck that, man. Leave
Yeah.
them alone. It'll
Yeah.
come out soon. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, but
I'm
it's cool to hear that you
I'm
have some new shit coming and something
yeah.
psycho related.
It is.
Awesome.
I'm not good at keeping secrets, so it's really hard for me not to tell. I have a few close friends that, when I sign a contract, and I know I shouldn't, I'm like, oh, look, this, so it's really hard
Right,
for me
right.
not to post, and not to share some of this stuff. But in the next
Yeah,
few
yeah.
months it'll all be up.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Awesome. I love it. And I'm excited and cannot wait to see it, my man. That'll be sweet.
Thank you. Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. So this is
Appreciate
bringing
it.
us to our finale here. One of your earlier posts on your Instagram account there was a picture of Pee Wee that you drew up.
Oh,
And,
Pee Wee,
and
right, Pee Wee Herman.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So old
It's been
Pee Wee
so long
Herman, my
ago.
man.
That's been
Yeah.
so, that was yeah,
So
that's like 4 years ago, I think. Yeah.
yeah, it was. Yeah, I was gonna say like 4 or 5 years ago, a little while back, and
Right.
then recently, you had your poster that you did for Jawbreaker, and it kind of got my brain thinking about you know sometimes the mashups with movies where something was just kind of comedic, with Pee Wee, how a lot of horror fans are into Pee Wee because it has scary elements in it. There's different
It did.
elements to the show
Yeah.
that are very creepy.
Large Marge. Yeah.
Large
Was
Marge,
was
dear
that her
Lord, and
name?
like
That
the
was her
scene where
name,
he's
right?
driving down the road. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, terrifying.
It's very
So
dark.
my question was if you could make like a graphic novel or a movie or something, and you were to
Hmm.
combine any horror character and put him in the realm of a comedy movie, what would you mash up? What character
Oh,
would you take, and what movie would you put him in?
comedy movie. Okay, that's kind of hard. I don't watch a lot of comedy. I've had
Or
this
even like a
idea.
kids like Ninja Turtles or some shit like that.
Yeah, I've had this idea of a Mean Girls kind of like like that movie The Burn Book, with Lindsay Lohan and I think Rachel
Mm-hmm.
McAdams. I had an
Mm-hmm.
idea of that in the movie. It's a great movie, so I'm not gonna hide that fact. The Burn Book, and I had this idea of doing a version of Ash in that, with the whole the book and kind of like the Evil Dead and that world. But it's I think I did a quick, and this has been maybe a year ago, uh, in my phone, just a really quick, would this work? So that might be something, that might be
Oh
something
my
that I do.
God.
I love mashups. I think that when they're well done, it's so good. I forgive me, I can't remember the name of the artist. They did from Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis is the haunted mansion, at Disney. The
Yeah.
portraits. I'm like, that's so good, and that's one of those times
Damn.
where I just sit there kicking myself. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Because
Right.
you see it, and it's so perfect. I think
Yeah, right.
Jamie Lee Curtis, I think actually like posted it on her page. I'm like, that's so perfect. So when mashups like when they work and when that artist like hits them, it's just like it's so perfect. So,
Damn.
I don't
That
know if
kicks
I'm that,
ass.
yeah, I don't know if I'm that clever, but I maybe I'll give one a shot. Maybe I'll
Oh,
give that a
I
shot.
I love it. That is great. It is so funny and so ironic that you bring up Mean Girls because so we were talking about movies to watch last night, and my
Hmm.
wife's thing is like every other weekend we'll both choose movies, and so like one weekend I choose some random horror movie, whatever the hell it is, and the other weekend
Yeah.
she'll choose something. And last night it was her idea, and so I brought up Jawbreaker because I'm like, well, I'm interviewing Austin tomorrow. He has this awesome poster. I haven't seen the movie, and she's like, oh my god, I love it. She's like,
Yeah.
at some point, have you ever seen Mean Girls? We should watch that. And I'm like, I don't. That's not like an essential movie to watch. And you bring it up.
Oh wait,
God
you've
damn.
never seen it?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
you
it's
have
so
it.
funny because she was like,
It's
you're gonna have to watch this. I'm like,
you.
and now you
You,
bring it up. I'm like, oh
yeah,
shit.
it's one of those movies that it has that like that black comedy, that certain darkness to it. I think
Uh huh.
Jawbreaker they killed their friends, so it pushes it a little farther. But Yeah, it's Mean Girls. It's a great movie.
Wow.
It's it's rough. It has some dark moments. Friday the 13th Part 2 has a little cameo in it. So,
Oh,
you
no
can tell,
shit.
yeah, you can tell that the writers, there's a level of awareness, in the way that the blocking is
Weird.
done, the way the scenes pan out. And I think I was the same way. I had a friend in high school and she said, "Hey, come over to my house." I think it was uh, I was maybe 17, 18 at the time. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to put on this movie." I'm like, "What is this?" Like I did not want to watch it, but she put it on. Like, this is not a bad movie. So, it's, you know,
Damn, that is
yeah,
wild. Jesus. What are the odds here? I'm trying
yeah.
to tell my wife, I'm like, I'm not watching that movie. Like I'll
Oh,
draw a line and then
you
all
should,
right.
yeah,
I'm gonna
just give
check
it
it
a
out.
chance. Yeah, for
For
sure.
sure. Well, look, man. I mean, you put me up on Jawbreaker, and I have to get that in my collection ASAP. So I'm gonna take your word for it. I'm gonna watch this one as well and let you know what I think.
Great, great. Yeah,
All
let me
right,
know.
dude.
Yeah, let me know what you think.
I sure will. We'll keep in touch. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing, man. I appreciate your time very much, man.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I appreciate it. It's great.
All right, you got the Lo-Fi Horror Guy, my dude in Creepy Carves Design. Go and check out his shop. You're gonna have a Black Friday sale this next week coming up, right?
Tuesday of next week. Yep.
Tuesday next week.
Yeah, I'll
Awesome,
have a post
awesome,
about that soon.
very cool. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. You stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bye, buddy.